In the Children of the Law of One, we are taught in a certain area and throughout the book to look at the wider spectrum of what can be very myopic and very in focus at the time. We're shown an illustration of a car that had an accident on one side. And if we were to just look at that one side, we'd see that accident in full view, and that would be our only view. We would just see that one side. We would then assume from the information given through our own eyes and our careful examination of that view that the entire car is wrecked. But if we were to zoom out and look at the total reference, the total car from above, and see it from a greater point of view, we would see that only one side of the car actually had the accident. Recently, what happened with me personally this last summer is that this exact thing actually happened. My car was sideswiped just on one side, and other side was perfectly fine. And I found myself very subconsciously parking in places where when I'd come out of a store or something, I would see the nice part of the car because I didn't want to be reminded of that sideswipe. But here I was, climbing in through the passenger side in order to drive my car. It was very interesting for me to be doing this. But then I remembered the car illustration in the Children of the Law of One that Jon so wonderfully gave us in the book to illustrate this perfectly. And now that we are seeing this political atmosphere here in the United States, we can use this illustration in order to better understand from a higher point of view. When I was learning about the Children of the Law of One in my late teens, early 20s, back around 1999, I was yearning for something like all of us who've been attracted to this path was yearning for unity with something else. It's as if I was born with this beacon in me, like a salmon trying to find home. I wanted to find that so badly, and the Children of the Law of One essentially gave me something that I'd been searching for as like a memory from past lives, or just a deep memory within the collective of finding something greater than myself. I had my first awakening, a spontaneous awakening at 19. And I don't want to go really far into this story, but it's just to illustrate what's going on and how we can take a better, higher view and vantage point of what's going on. After that first experience that happened of unity consciousness at 19, everything changed. Now, if you are involved with the Children Law of One or attracted to it in any way, you can feel this resonance within yourself as well. Regardless of whether you've had an awakening or not, this is within you and it's within all of us, and the ability to see this from this point of view of unity consciousness. In 2005, during my second awakening experience of unity consciousness, I gathered books on a table from a bookstore, and I chose teachers whose work resonated with mine, and they have been a constant with me. What I noticed is later on in life, through my 30s and early 40s, that the works of the Stoics also greatly parallel and really enhance the way that I look at the world through the Clo eyes. Remaining apolitical has been a big point in my life, throughout my life, and in my childhood, and with my family as well. And I'm very grateful that I have a family who is also taking this very philosophical stance. But that being said, certain biases are natural to happen in any case. Every key mark that we do on our computer, every thing we click on, every single thing is an algorithm that actually conditions us into a bias that we, try as we might, are filtered into no matter how much we guard against it. So it is very important for us to rise above and to look at the greater scheme. The Stoics have taught me so many great lessons on remaining impartial, but focusing on inner virtue. A Trump presidency or any leadership period of time, because remember, this is just a period of time, right? In our greater scheme, this is 4 years. And yes, a lot of policies, a lot of things can be enhanced during this period, which is a concern of a lot of us. Certain human rights are to be taken into account here. And that is what many people, especially in spiritual groups, have really been geared towards and focused on, because we are empathic people naturally, wanting to find something greater than ourselves. And so we very naturally approach these things from a humanistic point of view. So a Stoic approach to this Trump presidency, we would focus on what is within one's control. That's the Stoic way. What's within one's control. And then an acceptance of what isn't in our control. And so using Clo and Stoicism, using the children of the law of one and Stoicism and the golden rule as a guide, here is what might guide us through these changes coming up in the United States and the world, really. What we can do is focus on inner virtue. Inner virtue is a huge thing within Stoicism. And it teaches that true peace and our resilience will come from focusing on our own actions individually, on our own values and our own character. That way, regardless of external, and these are external, really, political changes, the Stoic would work to uphold their own virtues. And the common virtues of a Stoic is courage, justice, wisdom, and self-control. Also, we would want to accept those things we cannot control. Stoics believe that many aspects of life, such as a Trump presidency or whomever holds political office, are actually beyond our individual control. And so a Stoic would accept the Trump presidency as a reality to be worked with, rather than a source of any frustration. Another tenet of Stoicism in this point of view is to engage with this current reality constructively. So while Stoics accept what they cannot change, they also don't disengage completely. They believe in contributing positively whenever possible. This would look like choosing to get involved in local community work, help to educate others, and advocate for policies that they believe are just, but, and here is the great caveat, without anger or despair. Another tenet that kind of goes along with accepting but not engaging is to practice emotional detachment. This is kind of a very, by the way, a very Yoda type of Jedi. Think of yourself as a Jedi and a Yoda. What would Yoda do, right? We practice emotional detachment. This is also very Buddhist in a way. Goes along with many thoughts, really. A Stoic would strive to avoid any strong emotional reactions, whether it is positive or negative. That's important to know here, positive or negative. Because when we engage in an emotional attachment, and if it's a positive one, we are actually conditioning our mind to guard against any kind of so-called negative from the other side. So we want to remain emotionally detached so that we don't bias ourselves onto one spectrum or another. Emotions like anger or fear are actually very unhelpful and are only likely to cloud any judgment. So the Stoics' approach is to observe, respond thoughtfully, and yet avoid letting events disturb any inner peace. Another perspective of the Stoic is to seek perspective. Stoics often take the view from above, just like in the illustration of the car, seeing any events and all events from a broader perspective. The Stoic might see any presidency as a small part of the vast human story and consider how they can contribute to society in more meaningful ways, regardless of any political climate. And lastly, what I'd like to say here as far as the Stoics' point of view is to always serve a higher purpose. The Stoics' aim is always to live in harmony with nature, which includes serving society and the common good. So we focus on actions that would benefit others regardless of who is in power. So by focusing on inner resilience, constructive action, Stoicism offers us a way to navigate these political climates with calm and purpose, while also remaining centered on what matters most, which is personal integrity and service to others. I know this is a tough time for a lot of people, and if you are feeling an emotional reaction to this presidency, to the current political affairs that are going on, it's important to remain focused on your higher power and your true self. Focus on the things you can change, the things that you can do in your own communities to educate, to promote peace and love and kindness. If you feel an attachment to a certain stance on things, also remember that this is pandering to your inner bias and to your animalistic and lizard brain part of yourselves. We want to rise above this and see this from a point of view that can create compassion for others in the world. Something that being partnered for a time to someone who is very much biased on one side of a spectrum on the political sphere, what this has taught me is great compassion. In normal circumstances, and I say that in quotes, normal circumstances where one might choose a partner according to common values and such, which I have done, it is also evident that anyone can become biased in one way or another. It's just a part of human nature, wanting to belong and to be a part of something, really, to be a part of a tribe, so that we can fight injustices together. It's really, really important for us to remain a part of our community and our society and not drop out. Moving away will only really create more division. You want to remain strong in your own power, and that own power is the truth of who you really are, your higher self connected to God. And also remember that every action is a butterfly effect. Who knows, maybe this is actually what we need but not want. We perhaps might not be in a space yet in our human evolution to accept leaders who will actually be a part of the human consciousness, the raising of human consciousness, but instead need to be focused on the things of earthly matters right now. We are still a very long ways away in time and in space of our human consciousness and levels as a total to yet be self-governed. So until then, we must also just focus on our own human awareness within the spectrum of our true selves. Always remembering that our true selves are there for us to awaken to. They are connected to the all, to the universal consciousness. And by focusing on these very human things that feel very, very big in our frame of reference, it is only separating us more. We must really remember this. It seems antithetical, and it seems like that is not the case, that we must have our viewpoints heard and listened to, and it may seem dichotomic and very juxtaposed between what we see in our society and what we feel in our better brains of compassion and love. This has not changed, because we must also realize that on the other side of our own biases, let's just say them versus us, if we have those frames of reference, that they are being pandered to and conditioned through media outlets that are pandering to their own values, and they are being seen as compassionate and loving and wanting to see a better world from their point of view. So extremism on one side or the other really does not behoove us and do as well for our human evolution. Only when we can stick to our own self-advice that is connected to higher wisdom and true selves can we really see ourselves in a different frame during this political period. Please understand, this is just a phase. Just a phase. Being calm within oneself really is the key. Doing small acts of kindness still is the best power we can do in this life. When we awaken, each of us, we help others to awaken. Having strong reactions does not help us to awaken to our true selves.